Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Next Level Real Talk with Sheldon and David. And we have a special guest, Eliza. Welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Hey. Eliza,
Good to
somebody
see
that I
everybody
came.
back. Oops, sorry. Good to see
Yep.
everybody back. We had a week off.
Oh,
Hope
yeah.
you're doing well. Hope you did a little bit of the semi-homework if you saw my Facebook post. And excited to have Eliza here. So
We've been actually trying to pull this one off for a couple of weeks, but as we were saying, life happens. Taking care of our loved ones and our families is obviously the number one most important thing. It's part of what makes us, have a fulfilling, rich life, right? Is taking care of the people that we love.
yep.
So that's our priority. And it happened for both Dave and Eliza. It's sort of at the same time. It's kind of weird.
It's kind of
Yep.
weird. Yes. I had my grandmother was sick, and had to take care of her, and she's 89, and she's the love of my life.
love it.
So yeah, I had to make sure she was okay.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
And my dad's 92 and had to take care of him. And it was funny because Eliza and I don't know each other at all, and we've now met. But our worlds were in the same space, if I can call it
Yes.
that. It was bizarre. It's kind of cool and crazy at the same time. So
Yeah, and
I'm
it
glad.
seems like we're both going through a lot of similar events as our my grandmother's about your father's age and stuff, and so yeah, it's
Yep.
it's a blessing, and also really hard to see our loved ones go through what they're going through when they're elderly and stuff. But it's really neat that they trust us enough to allow us to take care of them the way that we do.
Yep. Exactly.
I think when we look at it that way, that it's almost like an honor. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Then
yeah.
it takes some of that, like, how Dave, sometimes you're saying like it can be frustrating or a pain or, oh my God, I got to do,
Yep.
you know what I mean? And then you realize, wow, what an honor that they've trusted us with this,
Yeah.
and it's
And
somebody that gave so much to me when I was younger. And then when you think about it like that, then it becomes a beautiful thing, right? This
It
moment.
I think I said this in a previous episode about I was feeling, or maybe I just said it to people around me. I was I have to take care of it. I have to go do this. It became a burden. When I was sitting there one day and I go, wait a minute. I was sitting there with my dad, my stepmom. I go, I get to come here. I get to hang out and just enjoy them. So I got to learn to, I have the opportunity to do it because one day I'm not going to have that opportunity.
Yes.
So it's like, and that changed my whole perspective. Yes, I get cranky at times still because it's just hard at times. But like yesterday, it was a 6-hour ordeal. I mean, and it's like going, oh my God, a whole day Friday. But no, it was fun. We're joking and laughing. At one point, it got a little hard, but come home, I was like, well, that was actually kind of fun. Rather than going like, oh my God, I'm here all 6 hours. This is driving me nuts. I'm going crazy. It was like I had a good time and they had a good time. And so it's like that one thing that could be a whole nother podcast, but that's a whole way of just changing your mindset. And this makes things so much better. So, and talking to you this morning, it's like we both came out on that side of having an issue of having, okay, this is good. We got something out of it. And we've enjoyed time with, our family.
And it's precious time. So I took care of my
Yes.
grandfather through hospice, and it was the roughest 4 months ever. But I think looking back, it was the most beautiful. I got to ask him a lot of things that I don't think I would have ever had the courage to ask him before. And
Wow.
and just he was such a proud man. So to have him allow me to take care of him in that way was very humbling and very it showed that he trusts me so much. And so those last 4 months were extremely hard, but there's something that I hold on to. And when he passed, it left a huge void because I no longer had anything to do. He was the center of my world for a good 4 months. So but looking back now, I wouldn't do it any other way. It was definitely a privilege.
Awesome.
It's something that I'm going to have to go through with my grandmother, but I'm looking forward to them because they took care of me as a kiddo. And so I'm really glad that I get to be here too to help them through that process.
It feels like that's something in our society we've lost so much of, right? Where we lose connection with the older generation, the generation that took care of us, and we just sort of go on and move our lives. And sometimes we move away, and you know what I mean? And then there's the nuclear family that, separated and it loses that continuity from generation to generation. And the privilege and the honor of taking care of somebody, you know. And
Yeah.
obviously with healthcare, sometimes it's impossible or difficult,
Yes.
right? So we do have
Very
to,
difficult.
you know, rely on the system a little bit, but just being able to be there and be present, right? You know, I think
Mhm.
that that's one of the things that you're both kind of talking about, right,
Huge.
Dave, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like your mind can be somewhere else, or your mind can be tripping on something else, like
Oh
why
yeah.
am I have to be here, or I got something else I'm supposed to be doing, or
Mhm.
they're taking away all my time, and that thought process can kind of really mess up your ability to
Mhm.
really just be there in the moment. And when
Yes,
you are, it changes the energy of everything, doesn't it?
it
Mhm.
does. It
Yeah.
totally does. And it was I was extremely afraid to lose my job at that point, because I was taking so long, like, taking my grandfather to his appointments and stuff. And um, but it just kind of ended up being like my grandfather got me by the hand one of those visits, doctor's visits. We were waiting in the office for hours, and he just told me, he says, "Don't forget to make yourself a life." He says, "You work so hard because you're going to forget to
Mm.
make yourself a good life." And he says, "I did that, and it was my biggest regret."
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so of course,
That's
that
cool.
made me cry on the
Whew.
spot, right? Um,
It's making
and
me
then of
cry
course
right now.
they call
All
they
right.
call his
Yeah.
name,
Forget
and there
about
I
that
am
right
trying to,
now.
they try and fix
Mm.
myself up before I see his doctors. And and he was going through lymphoma, and he knew it was the end. And he had
Mm.
also asked me, he's like, "I'm not going to make it through this, huh?" And I
Oh,
couldn't lie to
wow.
him.
Yeah.
It's stage
Mm-mm.
4, and I told him,
No.
we're not. And so that's when he started giving me these little nuggets of his life perspective.
Mhm.
And so going into
Awesome.
the doctor, I'm the one that's upset and stuff, and he's the one that should be. And they're looking at me like, "What's going on?" And I just told them, well, I said, I've spent a lot of time working. And at that point, I had been gone, had not been in El Paso, I'd been in DC. And for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
I just had this weird thing that I needed to go back home. Every time I
Mm-hmm.
talked to them on Sundays, I just felt like this, such anxiety that I just needed to go back home. And I finally did. And I've never been a person, I've been a planner, I've always been a planner. And I've never been a person to just up and leave. And I did. I did not have a job
Mm.
coming back from El Paso or any plan whatsoever. And I just knew that I needed to come home.
Wow.
And then within 3 months, he got diagnosed with lymphoma. So it was, I don't know, it was either intuition or something.
Mhm.
Something just called
Following
called me back
following the
home.
heart.
Hmm.
And
Following
I
the
will tell
heart and
you.
the gut, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So on that, I kind of go off of that was me when I retired in 2018.
Hmm.
I had 2 more years to make 30. Yeah,
Hmm.
30 years I had 80 points. We had to get 30 years to get the ultimate money. And I was at my 80 points. I was like, do I retire? And I was like, oh, God, I got 2 more years, 2 more years. But it was on my heart, on my heart. And I talked to my son-in-law, I talked to my athletic director, Ray Pino, and they're like, this is what you need to, it's your time. It's not going to get better. Things aren't going to get better at school. If you can do it, just get out, be done. Not knowing ahead of time that I retired. So that 2018, in this, well, my daughter had my granddaughter in November, so that was a good thing. I could be around for that. But
Yay.
then a month later, my mom passed away. So,
Mm.
and I was allowed to be there those 6 months and process through it and be with her. Me
Mhm.
not knowing in 2017, saying, "Hey," telling North High, "I'm going to retire."
Yeah.
That a year from now, my mom's going to pass away. I'm going to be able to be there to take care of everything. So we have to follow that feeling like you did. Because I
Hmm.
mean, when you said that, you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. Well, something's pulling me. And so
It
we
was a
have to be
hard
open.
pull.
We have to
Yeah.
be open. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but you got
A
to be
hard
open. Like,
pull.
what is this? And be
Hmm.
willing to accept it, not fight it. And maybe not. Maybe I didn't retire. Maybe you didn't leave, but be willing to listen to it and talk it through and figure it out. And I'm glad you made the decision too, because that's kind of gave you the good part of life with your
Yeah, it
grandmother.
did. And it was funny that I would talk to him, and he was very hard of hearing. So he was a man of short words and phrases and stuff. And so I would tell him, like, "Grandpa, I'm going to go back." And he was like, "What are you going to do here?" He was happy that I was in DC and stuff. And I just told him, "I don't know. I need to be back home." He's like, "No,
Hmm.
stay where you're at. You're fine." And but I had to go back home. And then I left to Tennessee, and then I came back home again. And that was because my grandmother did tell me, "Come home." And I
Mm.
said, "Okay, it's time." Yeah, because every other time I've moved anywhere or had
Um,
any kind of career adventure, they've always been behind me, and they tell me to do it. This time,
mhm.
I was, in between, like, do I go back home to El Paso to a job that was waiting for me there, or an opportunity came up in Memphis, and I was talking to her about it, and she just told me, just come home. I need you here.
Mm.
Come home. And I did,
Oof.
and it was the best thing ever.
Was it
Wow.
Tennessee where the extreme off road thing was going on, or
Yes.
yes?
Mhm.
Oh.
So we have minor celebrity on here.
Yeah, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, Eliza, talk about what you did with that. Let everybody know who
That's
you are
fun.
on that
That's
side
fun.
of the world. Okay.
That was fun. That was feels like a
A
lifetime or dream
lifetimes
ago,
ago.
really. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was so a little bit of background. I've been a mechanic since I was in high school. I went to auto tech. So that was about 16, 17. Graduated and started working on transmissions right out of that, and fell in love with off-road trucks. Well, I've been in love with off-road trucks since I was a kid, because of my grandfather. And anyways, started doing a bunch of off-road events and racing and stuff, and kind of fell into like the crowd that was working with MSD. And so when MSD and Holly merged, some of those people that I had been working with, like, and they had sponsored my truck and my racing and stuff, and kind of gave my name over to the Power Nation crew in Franklin, Tennessee, which they produce like horsepower and engine power trucks. Stacey David, Ian Johnson, Jesse Combs, all of those big names of the how-to TV industry. They produce all of that stuff, and they reached out to me on my social media, and I thought, okay, this is not this. This is a scam. They're pulling my leg here. And then they call the person that I knew up there calls me up, and he's like, hey, that's not a scam. He's like, we want your resume. Send in a resume, send in a tape of you and you know what you work on and what you're currently working on, which at that time was a 59 Willys pickup. And I did, and I was like, yeah, they're not going to want you know a Latina from El Paso, Texas, working on their stuff. I'm just not what you would think of as TV, personality. Um, and they called me back, and they scheduled a flight for me to go over there, and I did an on-screen test, welded for them, put on the top end of an engine, and they offered me a position, and I took it. So I
Wow.
Wow,
did
that's
two
awesome.
2.5 years with them, and it was
So
a
and you
lot of
did,
fun.
and it was a TV show, right? It was
hmm
basically,
So it
yeah.
ran
Okay.
on Spike, which Spike then changed to the Paramount platform, and then History Channel picked us up for the remaining amount of time that I was with them.
Awesome. What was it called? What was the show?
Extreme Off-Road, and then
Extreme Off Road.
XOR. hmm
Okay. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So, what was that industry like? Okay, because you brought it up, a Latino from El Paso, not that industry of first off women.
Uh-huh.
There were probably a lot of men, so that
Yes.
was probably different. How did they treat you? I mean, I don't know if I can go there or not, but it's kind of like that. Going to be a lot of interestingness going on there. So,
It was a lot of learning to work with each other, right? Because it was culture shock
okay.
for both of us between me going to the South and also them having me there too. And I
Okay.
was the only female builder on the show. We had Katie, and she was like kind of like she introduced all of the programs and stuff, but she was not wrenching or building in the shop. So and we would
Okay.
only see her maybe once a month, and so yeah, it was me and two, four, six, and 8 other guys.
Wow,
So you were
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
trailblazing hardcore is what
Yeah,
the bottom line.
love it.
and
That's awesome.
being the tip of the spear is never easy.
no,
Hmm.
it definitely was not.
Yeah.
We had a lot of struggles and hardships and stuff, but we ultimately worked it through and made some awesome builds, and I've made some really good
Awesome.
lifelong friends. Um, yeah,
Cool.
it was overall it was a good experience. Is there room for
Yeah.
improvement within the automotive industry for women and women of color? Definitely so.
Mm.
But it's work in progress, right?
Hmm.
I can't say that I want to change the industry because I absolutely love it.
That's
The
cool.
world that men have curated around hot rods and collision and everything, I love that industry. So I don't want to go in and change it.
Yeah.
I want a space. I want to be able to be there too.
One of the
You want to add to it. Yeah.
my
Mhm.
wife always talks about for and I might have mentioned it in the show before, like as a man saying that we want women here and women have a place here.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know why it's hitting me.
Mm.
Oh.
that when a man does it, it's a different impact than when a woman does it. And
Yes.
same with race, you know what I mean? When a white guy says, "Hey, we need diversity," it's different than when minorities are going, "We want, we want our space," because then it can be interpreted as
Yeah.
just bitching. You know
You're
what I
gonna
mean?
make
Yeah.
me cry now.
You know what I
No.
mean? You're just bitching. They are just
Yeah.
complaining. But
Yes.
when the party in power says, "No, we want to open this up
We
for
need to.
everybody,"
Yeah.
that voice is held with a different impact.
It
Yeah.
is. It
Which is
definitely is.
which is why I've always tried to do it in work in our work and on my team and stuff like that. There's been a couple of times where I've spoken up for the women on the team, in
Mhm.
meetings and stuff like that, and I'll say stuff, and it's that whole thing, every good man has, the wife there helping him out.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like it was her thing, and I was just smart enough to go, okay, you're right, that makes sense, and to say
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
So I've
And-
been blessed to have some amazing mentors that are men.
Mhm,
And
Mhm.
and now in the aspect that I'm older, that looking over things through liability lens and like how dynamics work and stuff. My God, they took a huge risk on me 20
mhm,
years ago when I
mhm,
started this,
mhm,
to hire me and to bring me into the shop and believe in me enough to know that I wasn't going to wreck their world,
mhm,
And so I'm extremely grateful, and to your wife's credit, it was because of them
mhm,
that I felt empowered, that I could be there, that I can be there
mhm,
and do that kind of work. And I've had the career that I've had because they believed in me.
mhm.
If they
That's
hadn't,
awesome.
I don't think I would have pursued my dreams.
And then it puts a lot
Yeah.
of pressure on you too, right? Because especially when you're the first or one of the earlier ones, like I said, the tip of the spear, right? I mean, I had a dude in college, went to military school, I went to the Naval Academy, right? And so the hazing that would go
Mm,
on, plebe year, they called it, freshman year,
mhm.
and there was a Filipino first class, and just Anthony Alabado, if you're out there, love you, brother, but you know what? You scared the shit out of us. And that dude was sharp, squared away, and stern as stern could be. And,
Mm.
would go at us hard. And he went at me hard. And one time in private, we were just the two of us in the room. And he
Mhm.
says, I go at you harder than anybody else because you have to prove that you belong here, and
Mm.
he, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he said it,
Wow.
and he goes, and I just want you to know that's why I'm doing it, because you got to show that you can handle it so that everybody else that follows you, you know, they know that
Wow.
you earned your space. You weren't given
Yes.
it like
I
that,
had a similar experience, and
Yeah.
at first I was resentful
Yeah.
of the person,
Exactly.
because
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just
What the
thought he
fuck,
was just being mean, just to
Yeah.
be mean.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of hazing, and it was a lot of
Mm.
insinuations of inappropriate things and stuff. And I just was like, how much is too much? Because I didn't want to also be the person that was like, going to claim sexual harassment in the
Mhm.
industry I chose.
Right.
And it
Mhm.
wasn't, how can I say it? I mean, it wasn't right,
Yeah.
but it is the truth of the world that I was going to be entering as a young woman at
Mhm.
18.
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
I finally said, you know what, I'm out, I can't do this no more, he stopped me and he said, no, 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 no. He says, I've been pushing your buttons to see how far you're going to let it, how far you're going to let it go, and also how you're going to handle it. He says, because this is going to be your life from here on out. If this is what you want to do, he says, you're going to need to learn to stand up for yourself. You're going to need to
Wow.
learn how to, navigate these situations. And he goes, and I think you've got what it takes. He goes, I believe in you. He says, but he says, you need to believe in you too. And you need to
Wow.
learn to set those boundaries. He says, because he says, you're one of the few in El Paso. He says, but others will come along because they see you in that position. They're going to say, I can do
Mhm.
that too. He
Mhm.
says, so you need to be, he says, you're going to need to be tough. He goes, and it's hard and I'm sorry. He says, but I'm going to prepare you for, he says, the worst so that you can be the best. And
What I
thank God he did.
Woo,
what I love
that is
is
wild.
Hmm.
as you
I mean, you could,
what
been
you
nice
two
if you
are
told me
talking
ahead of
about.
time.
What you two are talking about, and I have something, not because obviously I didn't go through all that you guys went through, but you guys had somebody that knew what you had, and
Hmm.
they pushed you to say, hey, you can be great in this industry, great in this position, great. I want to make you better so people can follow you,
Hmm.
not just to make you better, but like Eliza, you want the girls to follow you. You can be their mentor now. Like, hey, she
Hmm.
did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. And he had to make you strong, hard on the outside, so that you can handle all that.
Mhm.
And it's awesome when people can. This goes for other people and for us ourselves to see something in somebody. And I will tell
Mhm.
you, nothing like your guys is when I was in started teaching my third year teaching. The wonderful principal Nancy Kloss, love her to death, love her to death. Um, I was a rookie. I did not want to be a teacher. Sheldon knows that. I became his teacher, and I was up at a camp, and they said, "Hey, we're having uh, it's called the instructional cabinet or something. I don't know what it is. All the leaders of the school were meeting, and I go, well, I'm up at a camp. They go, well, on your way back from camp, we want you to be a part of these meetings. Whatever. So I walk in the room. When I get there, I look at the table. It's like Kings of the Round Table. I'm like, oh my gosh, these are like this is like the world organization running the world. These are my mentors and my people that I look up to.
Uh-huh.
And the principal looks at me and shows, you're not here to do anything, to make decisions. I just want you to sit here and listen and just pay attention, because one day you're going to be at this table. You're going to be helping run my school. But I
Wow.
need you to know what's going on right now. And I'm like, this lady's on drugs. There's no way that this kid is going to run this school. And I'm like, I don't want to be a principal. But now looking back at my career, all the things that I did for North High School and continue to do for North High School, because I'm still
Mhm.
there, that woman saw something. I didn't see it, but she saw it, and it's changed my entire life and career. And I've always, as Sheldon knows, I have some reservations and things I do. I don't believe in myself, which I need to stop. But I
Mm.
always look back at that and go, like, she believed in me.
One of
I
these
can
days he's
do
going to
this.
stop.
I don't know when. But stop. I know. I've retired and I've retired and I've retired of different jobs. So please go again.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I
So
can't tell you how many times I've said I'm going to leave and I'm going to leave and I have not left.
I know, right? It's too much fun. But having that we need to see that in people too and say, hey, this
Mhm.
person has something. We need to make sure we help them. And if we're going to be tough on them, say, I'm going to be tough on you because you need to know what's going to be like the rest of the time, and tell them that up front. So that,
Yeah.
oh, this is where I'm coming from.
Yeah, a little heads
And
up's nice.
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
right.
It is
And
nice.
be willing to take that from
Yeah.
someone going like, they must see something in me. If they see something, then I'm going to go with it. Don't question yourself like I question myself, because
Mhm.
all three of us have been there in different perspectives that someone believed in us and
Yeah.
said, you can do this, and pushed us to make sure
And
we
that's
did it. So,
powerful stuff, especially when
mhm,
we are taught, to be humble. And in that humbleness, we make ourselves small and
yes.
don't believe that we are
Hmm.
capable of the things that we envision or that we know are in our heart that we want to do. And so to have somebody on the outside say that we can do it is validating and also empowering. And
Hmm.
and now that I'm on the flip side of things and I'm mentoring, my
Hmm.
goodness, the fulfillment that I get from it is almost intoxicating.
It's cool,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Totally agree. So how do you, Eliza, how did you go through all that if you were in that, um, getting, I don't want to say getting attacked, or just, the hard part of it all? How did you handle, when you were down, if you were
Yeah.
down and kind of question yourself? How did you
I'll
go
be
through all
honest, I
that?
didn't. I
Mm,
threw myself into the work and would work until I would knock out and not have to deal with things. And which is
mm,
not a healthy thing. It left me, it triggered. I have an autoimmune disease, and so that
mhm,
I was in remission during that time. And because I didn't deal with my demons, so to say,
mhm, mhm,
it reared its
Mhm.
ugly head, and I had to. Ah, God, I was bedridden for almost about a year,
Wow.
wow.
and I lost some function in my hand. I was a very proficient TIG welder and stuff, and if you got the shakes in one hand, you're not, a nice TIG welder. So that was really hard to
Wow.
Mhm,
work through. And I was, when Sheldon and I met, I don't know,
mhm,
we totally clicked, right? And I usually don't share a whole lot of personal things about me, but you just make it so easy to have like that safe space around and talk about things that we ultimately need to talk about. But
mhm,
um, I was able to, because we talked about stress and stuff, and I told him I need to learn how to manage my stress. I'm very good on the outside of presenting a good facade. On the inside, I'm a very anxious and stressed out person. So we went through the guided meditation stuff, and that really, really helped me a bunch. But then those conversations led to what is causing my stress. And as much as I'd like to say it's everybody else, it's me and my
mhm,
own crazy expectations of what I need to be doing and where I'm at in life and how I'm not there yet. And also that the end of the day, I always feel like it's never enough. I'm not enough. What I do is not
Mm-hmm.
enough. It could be better. And that I don't
Wow.
believe truly in myself. I believe in my capabilities. But if you ask me, like, you'd have asked 18-year-old Eliza then if I would have ever done all the stuff I've done, I would never have believed you. And still
Mm-hmm.
now, it still feels like it didn't happen, but it did happen. But it's because of that, going back to you don't have that true belief in yourself that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still never enough.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's that
Yeah.
ego mind. That's that
Wow.
ego mind that never, and then it robs you of the joy, right? Of
I'm now working through this, and it's a lot.
Oh.
It's a lot.
He told me you get that book. I was like, uh-oh.
So she held up the Course in Miracles. If you happen to be watching the
Mhm.
podcast or watching it or listening instead of watching, she held up the book called The Course in Miracles, which I was shocked you got, which is cool, which is awesome.
Like when we spoke in person, I told you that I'm a hard learner. Things don't since I was a kid, I don't ever understand things with the hints and the little nudges and the
I
pushes.
think all three of us are that way.
Yeah.
We're the slow learner. This is the
Yeah,
slow learner group here.
everything has to be an explosion or yeah, implosion, some sort of crazy thing happening. So it took me getting a pulmonary embolism, almost losing my life, and hearing my deceased
Wow.
grandfather yell at me, "Get up."
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm.
and I told you there's three
Yep.
voices that I will always
Yep.
listen to, and he's one of them. And my goodness, that it's so funny when I went unconscious, of course, at the hospital, and it felt like I was in the best sleep ever, such peace and serenity, and I was just like, my God, I could stay here forever. And I could hear him, "Get up," and it was like a voice like, "Get up," and I was like, no, I'm not gonna. And then it came, you know, further like, "Get
Wow.
up now." And I woke up, and the doctor that was working on me, very soft spoken man, so I knew it didn't come from the outside. I don't know if it was my
Mm-hmm.
imagination. I don't know if it was my grandfather. I don't know if it was God or whatever
Mm-hmm.
entity has
Mm-hmm.
all the
It's
puppet
there. Yep.
strings. Whatever it was, it made me get up
Mm.
immediately. I felt all the pain and the I'm disappointment almost that I wasn't sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
and
You're like,
that's
that
when
felt so good. Why does this feel like so bad?
yes,
Yeah.
I want to go
and
back over there where it felt good.
yes,
Yeah.
and that really made me start to really reevaluate the way that I was taking care of myself and
Mm.
also
Mm.
approaching things. And when I was taking care of my grandfather through hospice, I had read um, Tuesdays with Maury and The Five People You Meet in Heaven, which they kind of reference in, especially in Tuesdays with Maury, A Course in Miracles, and then also The Alchemist and stuff. And there has been
Mm-hmm.
several books that just kind of,
Have you read The Alchemist?
yes, I have
Yeah, it's a beautiful
many
book.
times, many
Mm-hmm.
times.
Mm-hmm.
And those are all kind of books that are kind of in that same vicinity of
Yeah.
A Course in Miracles, which I had heard before, and I it was like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those books I need to read, and I just hadn't got to it. And then I came across a podcast, and then you guys were talking about it, and I said, the world is telling me again. I need to do something. Of course, I need to deal with those things that I struggle with, because how can I help people, especially now in the position that I'm in for my work and things that I do outside
Mm-hmm.
for the local schools and trade schools and helping mentor women and also young men and get into the trades and stuff. How can I truly help them if I don't if what I'm telling them I don't do for myself?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I have work to do.
Well, that's beautiful. And, you know, a lot of us don't even get to that place where we have those realizations. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully people who might be hearing this, might get that sense of, maybe I've, feeling stress, feeling anxiety, feeling unhappy, feeling, lack of profound peace. What is that?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And start that journey of looking at what it is. And hopefully this can help them. I know that Dave and I were talking when we, why do we want to do this? We want to be able to help people, and hopefully help somebody to see things differently or to start that journey. And it is a journey.
It is a journey.
To me, it's like all about relationship, right? Everything is relationship. There's relationship with
Right.
your family, the relationship with your friends, with your spouse, but ultimately it becomes this relationship with yourself. right?
Mhm.
And ultimately, that relationship is with your creator, with God, whatever you want to call it, right? And there's so
Mhm.
much I have. I have a
Mhm.
lot of stuff around that word.
I do
Mhm.
too.
There's a
I do too.
lot of stuff that is a loaded trigger word, almost God. You know what I mean? And to
It is
use
for
that,
me too.
and so that course helped heal a lot of that, and
Mhm.
to, you know what I mean. And but I still, it still comes up. Anybody who's listening to this podcast knows that.
Yeah.
It comes up all the time. But ultimately, there's that relationship with God, with your
Yes.
Creator, with
Mhm.
um, and that to me is like the fundamental thing. And when you kind of write that out, however that is for you, but when you kind
Mhm.
of align that thing, and then it shifts how you are with yourself, then everything flows from there. It's the
Yes.
Yeah. And
fundamental
and
solution.
and it's how you listen to that higher power,
Hmm.
wherever yours is.
Hmm.
And people out there know that I very, religious. Dad, granddad was a Baptist preacher, and so
Yeah.
grew up in the church, and so I believe in God, follow God. And Sheldon, we have that little conversations now and then,
Yes.
and understand people. It's okay because we're all in different worlds, come from different
Mhm.
places, and so my power, I say,
Yeah.
is
My
from God.
granddad was a minister too. Did you know that?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember
Oh
that.
wow.
Yep.
My granddad was a
So
Presbyterian
we
minister.
have it comes from, no matter what that other power is, that upper power, it's listening to that
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
understanding it,
Yeah.
because we tend to fight it. Not that I ever did.
Yeah.
Fought it
None
all
of
the
us have
time,
ever fought that.
you know. I mean,
No, because
one,
it almost seems like people and things and stuff just get placed in your path, right?
Yep.
And
yes.
um and a lot of us check it
Hmm.
out to coincidence, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of stigma around talking about religion and how you feel and stuff. And I grew up Catholic,
Hmm.
and I'm not a practicing Catholic, and that's because when my mother was going through a divorce, our
Hmm.
priest turned us away. And I was like, how didn't understand at
Oh,
14, how that could be. How could a family be going through a really rough time, and that's when we needed the church the most and that community
yeah.
the most, and they tell us, well, now you're sinning, so you can't come in. And so
Oh, that
that's
is
when things
brutal,
Wow.
started
man.
to not make sense for me. But now I can see, now that I've kind of done my own work in that aspect of things, that was him casting judgment. And of course there's
Mhm.
a lot of judgment within the Catholic,
Oh.
you know organization. um, but if I went down to the core values of what we were taught, then what he did was wrong. He should have accepted us into that community and
Mhm.
guided us,
Hmm.
and let us continue to learn from his teachings and stuff. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, and that's not at every church. And I had to learn that. I had to unlearn that as a
Mhm.
14-year-old
Hmm.
and say,
Well, you
okay,
had to
that's
heal the
not.
wound of that.
I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a wound. That's a trauma.
Yeah.
That's a
Well,
profound trauma. You know what I mean?
at,
On the whole
and at four,
family.
yeah.
And
At
it really
14,
made
we're
me
very
hard.
impressionable at 14. My gosh, you take them like that's what the world is. Okay, this is what the world
Yeah.
is.
And
Oof.
my mom was,
Mm.
devastated. She did not want to be going through the divorce, and of course, she did not want to leave the church community either. And so I can't even imagine how she felt about all of that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so I did struggle a long time with what the church community meant, and God and all of that stuff. But looking at the world now, I can't see how there is not a God, a creator, or some bigger force that's not helping things along, because there's just too many. They're not coincidences.
Hmm.
There was no coincidence that I met Sheldon at the time that I
Hmm.
needed to meet him. Because had I met him years back, I wouldn't have been ready for all of this stuff. I wouldn't have even admitted to myself that
Mhm.
I struggle with self-confidence and with
Hmm.
not believing in myself and stuff. And we can all lie to ourselves as much as we want until we think that it's true. But there was things that were happening in my life that I knew was a product of the way that I'm feeling, that makes then the people that I'm working with or that I love feel a certain way.
Mhm.
And so in
Mm.
order to make those things right, I need to make things right with me.
Mhm.
Hmm. And we've talked about that before, Sheldon. It starts within us. We have to figure out, where are we? Where, if I'm angry, why am I angry? If I'm
Mm-hmm.
depressed, why am I depressed? Where am I coming from?
Mhm.
And work on ourselves, because what's inside us is going to come out to others. So if
It's
I'm angry inside, it's going to be anger towards everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
so got to find out where we are, be at peace with ourselves, and then we can start working on the world around us. Being
Mhm.
at peace with me, okay, work on me, being at peace, and then being at peace that I'm helping dad and my stepmom. I'm the one doing it all. It's like I went down a bitter road and going like, where's everybody else?
Yeah.
Why am I the only one? And my daughter and I had a talk about it, and I go, I just feel like I need help sometimes, but no
Mhm.
one is paying attention to me. And I had to let go of that. It's like, no, that's where they are. I'm here. So I'm okay with me. And then I'm okay with going and taking care of dad and and Shirley, my stepmom. It's
Mhm.
okay. And once I'm okay with it, so then I can get each piece to be okay. So that's
Mhm.
that going down that finding that peace within. So
Yeah. Go ahead, Sheldon.
And
Sorry.
opening up to receive, right? For I think
Yes.
both of you were talking at points about,
mhm,
when we create that relationship with others where we're the fixer, we're the stable rock, we're the person that knows how to handle things and knows what to do. And that's how everybody in our life sees us when we start to fall apart. Who's there for us? Because the dynamic has been set where I'm the one fixing everybody in my world. That actually happened to me when I fell into um, drug addiction. I had this friend of mine, and I had helped her. She literally was on all these antidepressants and meds, and just talking to me, she stopped them all. She,
mm,
she was off everything. She was happy, and she would call me every day. Like every day we talked. I was really close friends with her. And when I started falling down the drug thing, we had a lunch, and she's crying. And she goes, "I can't stand to see you this way. I can't stand. I know what's happening to you." You're da, 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 da," and she just cut me out.
Oh,
Called. Never heard from her again. And
really?
oh yeah, just
must have been
done.
heartbreaking.
Could
Wow.
not believe it.
Yeah.
Like all a bunch of this community just boom, gone, disappeared on me. And I just remember kind of like, that that dynamic where it was just like, you feel, it was like kind of abandoned and lost, you know what I mean? And
Yes.
but also it made me do more drugs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm a slow learner. So I'm just like, I'm gonna bury all this shit. I don't want to feel this, and go further down that
Mm,
path of. But as you heal that within yourself, then you're also able to receive love and support, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes
yeah.
not used to it. We don't feel
hmm
worthy. So we have to give in order to receive, right? Well, how about
Yeah.
receiving? That whole cup runneth over thing that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
That
And I went through something similar with when I got extremely sick, and of course I self isolated too because I just didn't trust people to be there for me,
yeah.
and also
hmm
didn't feel worthy of
Yeah.
being taken care of
Yep.
and being helped and stuff,
Mhm.
and because I've always been the caretaker,
Yeah.
and so I felt like if I don't have anything, if I can no longer be the me that I've been and be there for everybody and take care of everybody the way I have been, then why should they love me? Why would
Mhm.
they take care of me? Why would they,
Mm,
and of course I pushed a lot of people away that would want to help me and would take care of me because I was busy in the couple of people that did, abandon me that I felt, really upset about. I've kind of projected that to everybody else because I
Mhm.
just didn't want to go through that disappointment again because it's
Mhm.
hard.
mm.
Yeah.
It's
So
really hard
how'd
to
you
do
work
that.
through that? How did you process through that?
Not well. slept slept a whole lot,
Honesty, I love
and
it. Yeah.
I would love to tell you that I was very courageous and picked up my bootstraps and kept going, but no, I was a mess, and it
Yeah.
made my condition worse.
Mm,
And I to the point where I was forced to let my mother help me.
Mhm.
mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and my God, I was not a good patient. I was not a good patient,
You did
because
not receive that support well.
no, I didn't, and I'm very thankful for her for loving me enough to see past me being angry
Mhm.
and upset
Mhm.
and mourning, the person that I was and the abilities that I had,
Mhm.
um, and how life was going to dramatically change for me.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
yeah, so I think because of all of that, and I no longer could weld until I was extremely tired, and because welding for me was once you're with your bead and moving that bead and doing what you need to do, you can't think about anything else.
Mm-mm.
And it's the same with working on cars. You can't think about anything else other than what you're doing. And I didn't realize that a lot of what I thought was my passion and drive and ambition was really me running away from a lot of things and
Mhm.
burying myself into
Um,
my work. And so when that work was taken out for me, I had to sit with my awful thoughts and all the stuff that I've not dealt with, and had to start processing it. And I'd started reading and doing stuff. And so I was now open to, when I finally did meet, Sheldon, that I was open to a lot of things and open to listening to, like, hey, this is an inner thing. This is not an outer thing. Because it's easy to just say, well, if I had this, this, and this, and I'd be happy. Or if this person treated me differently, I'd be happy. But at the end of the day, it ends up, being you within you.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow.
For sure. I mean, and that's why most people in the world don't.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people live their entire life just blaming the whole world on how they're feeling, right? So the people that are willing, it takes courage, right? It takes a lot of courage to be willing to say, okay, maybe I have a role in all of this stuff, and how am I going to handle, you know what I mean? Taking accountability and personal responsibility. It's kind of funny. One of the things I get to move, I go all over the country and meet all kinds of cool people, and Eliza, one of them. But this dude I just met, I was just training last week, total crazy, the craziest scenario. But anyway, he was a very interesting guy, and he hasn't read a lot, studied a lot, but has a lot of real intuitive knowing. And he goes, your frequency is what you frequently see.
Oh, that's a good one.
I know. Like that. I was like, dude, I've never heard that one before.
I like that.
Hold on. I got to write that one down.
Your frequency is what you frequently see. Yeah. So if you want to see differently, you need to change your frequency. And I was just like, holy shit, dude, that is good. I've never heard that one before. And I've read a lot and seen a lot and been around a lot. And I was like, I have never heard anybody say that one before. That's cool.
That is cool. Yeah. So I was like extremely fortunate that we met, because, I was in a time of transition and stuff, and a lot of good things happening. And, my health was improving, and I never thought I'd ever get into management, and had the opportunity to. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take it, because I want to be the manager that I've
never
not
had,
but also, never had, but also, bits and pieces of the managers that I did have, the good in them, and what they offered me, and how they believed in me, and how they created space for me and stuff. So I was like, okay, I've always said I'm going to not change the industry, but change how we approach things. Right. And I said, there's no better way than doing it, than by management. And so, I asked you, how can I best do that? And the piece of advice that really hit me, not only on the, professional level, but personal level, was, when you said that how we believe in people and how we present and how we believe in ourselves, it's an energy, and they feel it, whether whether I articulate it or not. If I ultimately don't believe in a teammate or employee, they're going to feel it one way or another. And because of that, it stresses them out. Then they start doing little things wrong, because they're focusing on, like, why doesn't she like me? Why doesn't she believe in me? Or, we've all been there. I've been there. And I could never figure out why I felt that way. But then when he said that, like, that just really transferred over to my personal life and my family, because of the the stuff that I've gone through, that I've had to do a lot of it alone, because I've lived alone in different states where they couldn't physically be there, and also me not letting anybody in too to help me. I always had this, like, not that I was ready for everybody to disappoint me, but I was ready for everybody to disappoint me. It's like, that phrase of, you prepare for the worst and expect and hope for the best. Yes. And that's a great phrase, right? When you're doing things and you're preparing and you're planning, but it's not effective for people, because people feel you. And if you're genuine, and if you really believe in them or not. And that sets the tone for a lot of things, especially relationships.
And it's all relationships.
It's all relationships. It all comes back to the relationships of that, who you have with people, and who you have with your loved ones, and who you have with yourself, and who you have with the person that you believe is, in charge of it all, or not,
And Eliza, you're talking about, well, as Sheldon said, we're slow learners. What you're talking about, when you kind of got the somewhat realization, you're having to go through a bad situation. like with me, I was just going through life when the divorce, when my wife asked me to leave, that's when Sheldon and I reconnected a lot. And we started saying, hey, you need to do this, do some meditation, do some journaling. And it took me to get to that rock bottom to see things differently and to see that within me there were some things that I needed to work on to find that peace, to find that happiness on down that journey. And now that I'm on that journey, I see things so much differently. But I had to go down that dark rabbit hole. Like you
Mhm.
had to go in, get really sick, get really
Yeah.
bad. Someone had to take care of you. All of a sudden, you couldn't work.
Hmm.
We all been there. Sheldon with his, talks about his drugs, had to get to rock bottom. So sometimes we may be in that rock bottom, but know that you're there for a reason
Hmm.
to get that knock upside the head.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and one story I talk about is when I never wanted to be a teacher. I worked in hospital administration, and I was a substitute teacher. And like substitute, okay, I can do that. And a couple of my friends would have me actually teach a class. I'm like, you don't want me to teach? I'm not teaching this. I don't teach. I'm just here to sit and read the newspaper while they work. And one guy at Corona del Sol, I'll never forget. I walk in and it says, "Okay, teach this, 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 and this." And I'm like, "Honors classes, math, me?" And then he called me the next day and says, "Dude, you did this really well. They understood it. You said it so differently than I've been saying it." And I go, "Whatever." And
Hmm.
so then I keep going on like, "No, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher." And I wind up in Colorado, helping change over a hospital, and it fell through and lost half my job. And I was on my knees, just crying, screaming at God, like, "What do you want me to do?"
Yeah.
And there was that little knock
Amen.
upside the head. It's like, be a teacher. I've been telling you. So now that you're at rock bottom,
How many
let's
hints do
talk.
you need,
It's like,
dumbass?
this is it. So I got to that rock bottom going like, I went to school all these years and now this is not going to work for me. I said, I want you to be a teacher. And so went back to school, got so much support when I came back, and it's the best career I ever had and the things that ever happened, but had to get to that rock bottom sometimes. I hope that people don't have to get to that rock bottom
Yeah.
to understand it. So that's hope this conversation helps people.
I hope
But
so, and that is
yeah.
that has definitely been why I've been more open about you know about really personal things, because I don't want to have other people have to go through this stuff, and I especially don't want to have people um, wake up the autoimmune stuff in their
Mhm.
bodies because of stress and because of not dealing with things. And it's
Hmm.
becoming a thing. Like the more and more I'm looking into things, lupus is affecting 1 in 4 people now.
Yep.
And it's one of the leading causes of death for women between 3 and 46 years old, and it's
Wow.
also one of the leading causes for death in men too. And a lot of it is very stress driven,
Mhm.
and
Mm.
it's so yeah, I have 2 other really good friends of mine that are also in the automotive community that also have 2 very awful autoimmune diseases, and they've had to go through kind of the same journey. They're a little bit further along than I am on mine because I'm a slow learner. But yeah, they've had to really learn how to control and manage the stress and stuff, and they've been very open about their journey. And I said, okay, in taking that position and to be on TV, you kind of open yourself up to being somebody that is now public property, right?
Mhm.
And I
Hmm.
feel that it's not an obligation, but kind of like a duty to be real with other people about things, about life,
Mhm.
and about the career journey and what the automotive industry is and how beautiful it is, but also, sometimes the ugly side of things, so that they're prepared if they want to join. But then
Hmm.
also, personally, with the health stuff, I think health and the careers are always that's always a tricky space, right? Because you don't want to over disclose and then kind of shut yourself out of certain opportunities,
Mhm.
or have employers find out and say like, oh yeah, well, we really don't want to hire her because they've got these health issues that are chronic.
Mm.
um, but in not going to the doctor's appointments and not taking care of my stress and not taking care of myself, I made this mess for me.
Mhm.
And if I can prevent that for anybody, then I will definitely share the very personal things, because I think it's important for people to take those doctor's appointments, to take those days off that they need, and to deal with the unresolved things that they've got going on.
And Liza, in the conversation we've had, it's funny because Sheldon and I've talked about this before. We've all been down to where we don't believe in ourselves. That's
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of this comes to at times.
Yeah.
We're like, why do we not believe in ourselves? It's so weird that we don't. But
Yeah.
so that's one thing. But then being able to see it and just being able to get that help from others and listen to others and talk to others. So
That's
And,
hard.
and if
yes, it is.
I could share one thing, don't upper limit yourself, right? And what does that mean? We upper limit ourselves all the time, right? One of the things that can be upper limiting is, oh, I could never heal this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm,
so I don't care what the doctors are telling you. I don't care what the medical community tells you. At least be open to the possibility that you
mhm.
could be free of this.
Yeah.
Okay, to where
Yeah.
it's in remission so deeply that it's not even a thing in your life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of idea. Because there are so many. If you start going down rabbit holes of like medical miracles and people that have done crazy things because of the energy of
Mm-hmm.
the God,
Yeah.
divine, whatever you want
Mhm,
to call it, going
mhm.
through, and people will connect to that through meditation and in different ways. But there's a dude, RJ Spina, who I don't know if you ever heard of that guy,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
but he had, I think it was the spinal meningitis, bacterial infection in the spinal
Oh, yes.
cord.
We spoke about
So
this. Yes.
Wow.
yeah, talked about him, and he was dying. All of his organs were shutting down. He was dying. So they found out it was in his spine. So they cut his whole back open. And I think they shaved all of the vertebrae off and they opened up his spinal cord and they literally scraped the bacterial infection off of his spinal cord and they
Whew.
paralyzed him. And they're like, we saved your life. You will never walk again. You're
Mm.
Wow.
you're paralyzed from the neck down. So you are going to be a quadriplegic for the rest of your life. And he was just like, get out of my room. I'm going to walk in 100 days. I don't want to hear anybody who tells me otherwise. Like,
Wow.
leave now. And, nurses are like, doctors, you're delusional. You're not accepting reality. We scraped your backbone. Your nerves don't heal. We scraped the sheathing off your spinal cord. You will not heal. You will never walk. Get over it. You need to deal with reality. And he's like, get in my hospital room. I don't want to talk to you.
Mm.
And, just surrendered, prayed, whatever you want to call it. Boom. He had such a strong energy in that room that some nurses would come in there. Can we eat in your room? It just feels so good in here. Because he
Yeah.
had
Wow.
the light in the room, and he walked 100 days out of the hospital. Walked out.
I believe it.
And he's
So
totally fine. And he's written a bunch of books now, and he's pretty famous. And
I believe it. Like I said, at my worst, I was bedridden,
yeah,
and I am now
Mhm.
up and walking
yeah,
and back in the shop and back
yeah,
into what I love to do.
yeah.
And a lot of it
That's
had to do with
awesome.
my mindset, which is
With
crazy, right?
yep,
Had to do with what? Had
My
to do
mindset
your
mindset.
mindset. Yeah.
that
Mhm.
I wanted to choose to live and
Yeah,
not just wait to die.
yep, yep,
And it's
exactly.
all what you think within yourself, which again we all have talked about. It's our biggest problem is our own self.
Hmm.
Um, and I talked to Sheldon about this before about um, at the divorce, I was always angry, okay, at my ex-wife, and it was like just holding things against her, holding, not willing to forgive, and so that was in me. So that anger was stuck in me. Then I heard that song "Forgiven," and it says one of the lines says it talks about, you know, it keeps a something about a prisoner. It makes you a prisoner if you don't forgive, you don't forget, you become it's a prisoner. And they go, but forgiveness sets a prisoner free. The prisoner it sets free is you. And
Yeah.
man, I started bawling when I heard that song. I said,
When you got the
I just
song,
need to let it go. Let
Yeah.
it go. And from that moment on, I can tell you where I was, where I was sitting, what station was on, exactly the moment. And that changed my perspective about when I go to the family functions.
Hmm.
It's not like that anger at her. It's like we talk and have fun. And so but it was that mindset that I had to change, that hey, let it go. And
Hmm.
so yeah.
and I think that it's for me, it's like the thoughts. It's not even okay. So there's thoughts, right? There are thoughts. We have thoughts, and then we battle our thoughts sometimes,
Oh my
right?
God,
Mhm.
yes.
And that becomes a battle, right? So now you're battling your mind, right? So the last podcast we talked about the yin and yang and the whole thing in your brain, right? So now you're in your
Mhm.
head fighting your head, and that can be exhausting, right? Because you're
It is.
constantly it's an ongoing thing. So the beauty of meditation and that particular practice is that you start to observe thought itself.
Yeah.
And that's what the Course in Miracles is all about, is changing your relationship to thought itself, not just good thoughts or bad thoughts, but all thoughts,
Mhm.
and you start to recognize that you are not your thoughts, and you start to feel that. And like, Dave was saying, it's one thing to understand something, but when you feel it and experience it directly
Mhm.
and you live it, then it's different, right? So
Mhm.
shifting your relationship to thought. You are not your thoughts, right?
Mhm.
So we
And
talked
that is
about
And
that.
the
hard.
That is a big
and
one.
the
It's a
So
and the
hard.
huge one.
So
It
I
is a
had
it's
huge
I
one.
had tried to meditate before we met, and
Hmm.
I couldn't ever
Hmm.
because my thoughts were
Hmm.
running rampant,
Hmm.
between like crazy thoughts,
And,
all
and
the
when you
thoughts.
try to quiet
Yeah.
it intentionally, it gets worse.
it's
Yes,
worse.
it,
Yeah.
it almost seemed like it was louder, and
Yes.
I couldn't deal with it, so I
It's
quit.
just like, you want to stop me? Watch this. Ah!
Yes, yes, exactly that. And so I quit. I tried many times. I tried yoga. I tried to do a lot of different things, and I couldn't. I could not. It got to the point where I couldn't even read because of all of my thoughts.
Mhm.
Mm.
And then once we had our meditation session, and I started, I when I got it, and I held on to it, and I ran with it, so that because it was the first time I actually
Cool.
quieted my mind. But now I'm able to catch myself when I'm thinking those bad
Crazy thoughts.
thoughts about
Yep.
me,
Yep.
and bad
Mhm.
thoughts about like what's going on, and this is
Yep.
my fault. And if all the it's crazy if you count how many times in a day you say something bad about yourself, or
Yep.
you
Mhm.
critique yourself, or
Yep.
you say something negative.
It's incessant.
Yes, it is,
Yes.
versus
It's
And
the good
non-stop.
yeah,
nonstop.
and I don't know if you've read Untethered Soul or not, but I've talked about it a lot. It's in it. Sheldon and I've talked about it. It's the clouds going over. My thoughts are clouds, and it's like I can sit there and focus on the cloud and make it stop and start focusing and focusing, or I can say, let that thought go. Just now, those negative thoughts or those bad things, it's like, oh, it's there, but now it's going away. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes those thoughts go very slowly.
Yes.
There's not much
And
wind.
sometimes they hook you. You're like a
Yeah. So,
fish. It hooks me, and
yeah.
now I'm in
So,
it.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Damn it.
So I go through that exactly what you're talking about. You just kind of like that thoughts are going there, but you got to kind of like let them fly by. It's like, yeah, that thought's there. It's gone. And
I'm
the more times I let it
slowly getting
go,
there. It is so hard
yeah,
because I'm now
it's
Yeah.
not
caught up
easy.
in the I recognize the thought, whereas before I never even
Mhm.
they were just constant thoughts, and most of them were negative, of course. But
And you
now
are
I'm
in your thoughts. Now you're
yes,
starting to create some space, right?
yeah, and so
Mhm.
now I'm gotten to the point where I recognize, okay, I'm the beginning of the negative thought, and say, okay, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, 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 we got to correct that, stop that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
But now it's letting go of that thought, because then you get
Yeah.
hyper
Mm-hmm.
fixated on like, why am I having all these crazy negative thoughts?
Yeah. So
So
can I
I'm in
ask
that
you,
journey.
is the golden sun, so the golden sun is the particular meditation you're doing, right? That's the one
Yes.
we did, right? So
Hmm.
you're feeling the golden sun in the center of your chest. Are you feeling it?
Yes,
Do you feel something when you do that?
I do.
That's
I
cool.
do.
Perfect.
And my goodness, like I've never been, like I told you, I've never been a very like person about outside energies and
Yeah.
spirits and
All
whatever
that
else.
bullshit.
But yeah, yeah, because because of the people that we work with, like it's
Yep.
we're all
Yep.
very like macho. We can do
Lads,
this. We're
lads,
gonna
as my
tough
wife would
it
say. Yep.
through, kind of stuff. But I can't lie. When you and I met and we did the golden meditation, I saw that amber light,
Yep. Yep.
Mm,
and I felt it. So
That's
it's
cool.
it's not a it's not real.
Yeah.
I can't put a name to it. I can't say,
yeah.
what happened, but I know that it's real. I know I saw it, I felt it. And so that's why I told you, when we had that session, I grabbed onto it and I ran with it, because I didn't want to let that go.
Mhm.
That
That's cool.
So I've still been able to retain it. I lost it for a little bit, but then of course, what you almost like Kismet, you came out with the podcast, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I had forgotten
That's right. You
forgotten
had
how to
texted.
visualize it. Yes.
You and Jessica both
Yes.
reached out and were like, "Are you going to do a podcast on the meditation?" And we had just recorded it, Dave, on
Hmm.
Saturday, like this Saturday, and then we posted on Tuesday.
Oh, you
And
told me the story.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think both of you reached out on Monday
Mhm.
and were like, "Hey, are you planning?" Or Tuesday. One was Monday, one was Tuesday, something like that. And I was just like, "Holy, yeah, wait a date."
Yeah.
I think for you, it
It's
was like
there.
that morning. I'm like, waiting a couple hours
Yes,
at
it was
12 o'clock on Tuesday, we released that thing. And it
and
was
it
like
was a
wild.
lifeline for
Yeah.
me. Yeah, it was a
Again,
lifeline for
it's
me. I
that
was able.
timing.
Yeah.
It is that
That's
timing,
cool.
and that's
Yeah.
that's divine intervention. There's no other way for me to describe these,
Yeah.
what has happened,
Yeah.
the time we met, and how we were able to, to connect, because, sometimes we have a lot of interactions with different people, and because we're busy playing it safe and busy playing it, very professional, I think we miss a lot of opportunities to really connect on a good level with somebody
Mm-hmm.
and create
Yeah.
that trust and stuff. And thankfully, and it's because of your personality and how open you are and just your good energy, that I was able to make that connection with you, and open up about, things that I'm not really open about, that I'm trying to be, because, of what I'm trying to do and work at. So it just all happened at perfect timing, because had we met before, I wouldn't have been ready for it.
Yep. Timing.
It's always an interesting thing, because I have to, I'm at work. It's work, it's a work scenarios, right? So it's like, hey, it's not about that, right? It's about
Hmm.
other things. I have
Hmm.
an agenda of, things to teach and all that stuff, right? And information to transfer. But I have gotten better at trusting my own intuition, right? With regard
Hmm.
to trusting myself, and that, it just feels right. Like
Hmm.
there's a moment, and it's kind of funny, because I have had, kind of a prayerful thing where I'll just say, if I'm supposed to, open up the door for me. If I'm supposed to, fine. If I'm not, I'm good. I got, I enjoy what I
Yeah.
do on a normal level, right? I
Hmm.
totally enjoy what I do. It's fun, it's cool people, and I'm good with that, But if I'm supposed to, then, open up the freaking door, because I'm a slow learner.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I'll literally like, hey, you better help me out here, because I ain't fucking doing that shit.
And I will tell you that the doors flung wide open when you were telling me that, that I needed to really believe in my crew.
Yeah.
And of course that hit me on a personal
Cool.
level, and I started to cry, and I apologized, because I'm not a crier.
Yeah.
Definitely not a crier. And I was embarrassed, and it opened the door for us to have a,
Yep.
that good personal conversation.
Yep.
But I think a lot of times that we have those opportunities with a lot of different people, and we're
Mhm.
just scared to
Yep.
go there.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have to be open to know that we don't know how we touch people.
Hmm.
And so we have to be open to the situation, what's going on. It's like, hey, this might be something, or you don't even know it, but be open to it if it comes to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I definitely needed help at that point, and I'm thankful that I was already at the point in my journey that I could say I need help. And I
Mhm.
did tell him I'm gonna need help with controlling my anxiety and my stress. And I said, and it's nothing that's an outside thing; it's an inside thing for me. And thankfully, you were like, I got you. But yeah,
Funny you should ask that.
Yeah.
yeah. But people ask for help in very different ways, and thankfully you're very intuitive, and talking to you the little bit that we have, I think you are too, that you guys can recognize those little cries for help, because
Mhm.
they don't come as asks, they
Right.
come
Mm-mm.
as very,
Sometimes anger.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sometimes
yeah,
anger.
yeah,
It,
sometimes
that,
outbursts, or just weird ways of asking for help.
the core. I think it
Yeah.
actually. I think it's in the way of mastery. It's a teaching that a gentleman brought forward that is kind of a follow on to the course, if you will.
Hmm.
I think it's in there. I can't remember, to be honest. It's been a long time with some of that for me, but it talks about, or it might be in the course, where if everything, it's either love or fear. These are the two like energies, and fear is just this absence of love, right? So, okay, it's kind of like a shadow. Shadow is nothing more than the absence of light, right?
Hmm.
You remove the block to light, and light is instantly there. You don't have to do anything; just remove the block, right? And so that's kind of the course dynamic: is you're removing the obstacles to your awareness of God's presence, right?
Yep.
And so you're removing the blocks, and those blocks are in you, right? So you have
Hmm.
to remove them because God's always been there, right? So that kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, right?
Yeah, now that I've been, so I'm, the Course in Miracles is a lot rougher than I figured it is, and it's not even crazy. It's not even there. It's not even, the lessons are, they're not asking you to do anything crazy.
Yep.
So the first one took me 2 days to go through, and it's just a matter of like looking at things and saying that has no meaning,
Yeah.
but the conflict in my
Yeah.
mind that went through,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that has no meaning. That
Yeah.
cup has no meaning.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
has no meaning. My
That's why I wanted to
like,
talk to you before you started it.
yes, and
Remember,
thank
I
God
said,
you
"Hey,
did.
let me."
Thank God you did, because I would have gone through a crazy rabbit hole. but yeah, those blocks, you just don't realize that they're blocks until you're faced with them.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully you recognize some of those blocks in me and kind of was nudging me towards different paths, professionally and personally. More professionally, because you would recognize that I'm a I'm a deep diver, one of those. As soon as I see something, then I'm like, oh, I got to fix this, got to fix this, got to fix this.
Yep.
And and in management, you can't do that. You
Right.
have to learn to bring the team in and let's all do this together.
Yep.
And so yeah, with those blocks, thankfully you were able to kind of show me the block and say, okay, what are we going to do here? Are we going to remove this, or are we going to
Cool.
stay here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love it.
That is cool. So, we were talking about how people react and how some people's call for help can be anger. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And then we were talking about, love or fear. And I think it's the way Master Aid says that if everything is an expression of love or expression of fear, then when somebody expresses themselves lovingly to you, the appropriate response is love back, right? Somebody gives you love, you're going to give them love back.
Yep.
But if somebody's expressing themselves to you through fear, and if you recognize that it's always fear that's masking their love, then the only appropriate way to respond to that fear is with love,
Love.
right? So what does that mean? The only appropriate response to anything is love, more love, right? And that's not easy to do when that fear is expressing through anger, through judgment, through whatever it is, right? Because that can be coming at you. But the more that you ground in that love, that self-love in your own heart, and through the higher love, and you're connecting to all of that, that's when the cup is running over. That's when, the garden is so strong that it doesn't matter who's in there. It can't be trampled, right? That is when all of those things you're really rooted in your own personal power, which is not your power, but the higher power through you, kind of thing, right? That becomes unshakable. That is the house on rock, right? All of those things that, and then it doesn't matter anymore. You don't care because you don't take it personally either, right? And it's just like, because you kind of see that that's a person that's struggling right now. And there's nothing but compassion for that, right?
Yeah.
And Buddhists call that compassion arising naturally. But you have to have that anchored in yourself first, right? It has to be. And then you see it so clearly. It's not a mental thing like, oh, I'm supposed to be good to this person, even though they're being an ass. And your mind is there, right? It's like you anchor down. And the beauty of the Golden Sun meditation is it takes you into your heart. It takes you into the energy of the heart. So it takes you out of, you're not longer battling with the mind, trying to have a good thought when you have a bad thought.
Yes.
Or, you know what I mean?
You're fighting. Also the judgment, because we can feel definitely, two different ways about a person. You can love them dearly, but also be judging them for how they're acting and coming at you.
Yep.
But if you choose, to continue to love them despite of what they're doing, because what's that saying? Hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
And if we can recognize that we all do that we all, default into fear and default into projecting our stuff out into other people. If we can always rely back on that, we love that person as a person, as a coworker, as whatever, as a human, then I think we can push through a lot of conflict.
Yes. And when we love ourselves first, then we'll notice and we'll be able to recognize when that is too much. Hurt people. And you know what? I need to draw a boundary here. But you'll learn how to draw that boundary like compassionately, right? Versus reactionary, right? In other words, just like, hey, you go do you over there.
Because you
get in that playground.
Yeah,
I'm going to be in this playground over here because your playground, you're messing up.
It's not good for me.
It's not good for me right now, right? And how you communicate that comes up naturally in a more loving and compassionate way when you've anchored in that space.
And when around them, still just give them love.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually that will be a part of their world too.
Yep.
It just some people takes time.
Yep.
So, ready for homework?
Yep.
So, Dave, Eliza, just so you know, go ahead. Sheldon explains it much better.
Well, what? Dave's been a teacher his whole life, and homework is a natural part of it, and it evolved in this podcast organically. You're just like, okay,
I'm kind of used to it. My mom's a 5th grade teacher, so that was I was
So,
raised in a very
And
homework
I
centric.
forgot, you've been listening to the podcast, so you know about the homework. So I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so the homework is a natural part of this thing. It just sort of happened. So, Dave, what's the homework?
Okay, so as I'm going through, I was taking notes. So sometimes if you see me over here, I'm taking notes, people. So I'm not just not paying attention. And I was thinking as we're talking, because next week I'm meeting with my leaders of my Swim for the Light. Um, so it's our thing called Swim for the Light is for mental health. And during the pandemic, we started this thing for it's a Valley Wise Health Systems here, and one of our swimmers started it, and we're trying to raise money for mental health because
Mhm.
it
Beautiful.
exists. And the biggest thing is, and I loved getting a part of it 4 years ago when we started at Xavier. I jumped in, feet first, head first, arms first, whatever, because it was like all mental health, and that's where I was going down a lot at certain points. And the biggest saying is, it's okay not to be okay. Just get
Yeah.
help. And that's what we try to get more of. Try to tell people to do that. And these are high school girls that really support it and push it, which is awesome. And so on that, first off, I want to talk about self. Okay, here's the homework. Look at yourself. Work on yourself. Always take care of yourself, whether it be mental health, whatever it is. Take care of yourself. So this week, pay a little more attention to yourself. That's the first thing.
Self-soothing.
Yeah. And trust yourself.
How to
Take care of
comfort
yourself and trust yourself. Okay. And in that, if you're going through that and you say, you know what, this is just not a good part of my life, I need some help. It's okay to not be okay, because there are so many of us out there. And ask for that help. Find someone that can help you. There may be someone that'll push you away. Say, oh, that's not a problem. You shouldn't have that. You shouldn't do that. I got told that a lot.
Yeah.
And wound up going to therapy. Like, don't do that. The district will know you're going to therapy. So I need therapy. And that saved me.
Yeah.
So again, look at self, work on self, take care of self, and trust yourself. If you need help, ask for it. And then look at others, see how you can help others in that process. Like the three of us were talking about, we had that person that said, you're good at this.
Mhm.
I'm going to help you be better at this. Find that person. You may just say, hey, you know what? You're really good at this. You got to keep doing that. I really appreciate that you do that. And I see that in you. So those are two things, one for self and one for somebody else. Those are your two things to do this week.
That's beautiful.
I love that.
So,
I love
Yeah.
that too.
so
And funny, and helping and seeing that little light in somebody else and you helping that grow, it is very, very it's very healing. And
Yes.
it also gives you a whole lot of energy and good energy to continue that. And so when you get that little energy, get that for yourself, just a little bit, and
yes.
just say, hey,
Yep.
you worked on that.
It is, isn't it? It's beautiful.
Mhm.
Hey, man. So this has been awesome, Eliza.
It has been.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
being here. Oh my God, we so
Oh, thank
appreciate
you.
you being
Thank
here.
you both. I cannot tell you or express to you guys both enough how much your podcast has helped me through my journey, and it's in the time that I absolutely needed it. And so I just want to thank you both for your work and creating a space for us to be able to talk about, the hard stuff and the cycles of life, right?
Mhm.
That they're
Yeah.
never ending. I
Yeah.
always figured I would grow up and things would be okay because the adults I looked to, they all looked like they
Right.
had it together. Um,
Then we
thankfully, that
realized
was
none of them did. I'm kidding.
yeah,
Right.
that was one of the little last nuggets that my grandfather, gave to me because he was such a put together man, and so is my grandmother. And I asked them, when do you feel like you're done or you're okay or things are on track? And he told me never. He says as
Oh
soon as I
wow.
got one thing figured out, something else would come up. He says you
Mhm.
have to be okay with the cycle of learning and progressing and changing.
Wow.
That's some
Yeah,
wisdom right there.
it is.
Huge.
And I
Beautiful.
wasn't ready to hear it then. 7 years
Wow.
later, I am.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with the
Wow.
cycles.
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Wow.
So
Because
thank you
it
guys for
wasn't.
what you guys do.
Oh, certainly. Because it wasn't okay to say that I'm not okay or we don't have it together.
That was
So now
another
it's okay.
another
So
depth bomb drop, boom, mic drop moment right there
yep.
at the end there, Eliza. Beautiful.
Yes. So good job.
That's
So
why we
thank you,
called it
Eliza.
next level
Hey,
real talk.
yeah. And so we hope to have you back on some other conversations and
Yeah, that would be
have you
awesome.
around.
for
I'd love to
sure.
hear how you're doing. And
Further
so
further along in the book.
Yeah.
I'm
yes.
sure that it's gonna be a journey. I'm on lesson 4, and it took me 2 days to get through lesson 1. So I'm sure as I progress, that more things will come up, and we'll have more things to talk about.
Awesome.
I guess I'm gonna have to start doing the Course in Miracles. Sheldon knows I have not done it, so maybe I will have to jump in. He'll let me know if I'm mentally ready for it or
Yeah,
not.
Yeah.
maybe this is a little nudge.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, oh no, she's nudging me. Awesome. Well,
So this
thank
has
you
been
guys.
awesome, Eliza. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Awesome. You have a great
Loved having this
great time.
talk. Thanks for being so open and courageous to share your story
Yes.
with us. And that'll be it. We'll call that a wrap on Next
Call
Level
that a
Real
wrap.
Talk.
And you guys have a great week. Remember your homework. Take care of yourself. Look for somebody else doing something great and let them know it. And we'll see you all next week. Keep a smile on.
Bye.
Bye.